Well, it's the top of the hour. It's 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, and welcome to our NAMM Member Music Education Action Alert webinar. It's really great to see folks assembling here on our virtual platform. It's been a year, folks. It's been a year that we've been experiencing this, and it's just still wonderful to see you all. And I am reminded about the importance of being together in any format. That's really how I've been, generating my energies through these many, many weeks. So I'm so grateful to have you with us. Like all NAMM webinars, we have to start with a quick news about our antitrust commitment. This is something NAMM does take very seriously, that we don't have conversations about market or pricing, competitive areas of our business. And our formal information about this policy is always available to you at namm.org. And I urge you to discover that if that's important and valuable to you, as it is to us. Encourage you to, as you've done so very well, telling us who you are and where you're from, to use the chat feature for questions. I guess there is a Q&A function as well, but mostly we'll use the chat. And we're welcome to have you all here. I am Mary Lurson, the Director of Public Affairs, Government Relations for NAMM, also Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation. And it certainly is wonderful to see so many friends, new and old and ongoing. And thank you so much that we can be together. I'm delighted to have with me today a critical partner in this work that we do for music education, known to many of us. Lynn Tuttle, who is Director of Public Policy Research Professional Development for the National Association for Music Education, has a remarkable background in public policy, is also a flutist, and got the Wear Blue Today memo. So Lynn, welcome. It's really great to see you.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for having me.
So what we're going to cover today, this is an action alert webinar at the start, the second day of Music in Our Schools month, which Lynn will be telling us more about the activities that the music educators are undergoing right now and for the days ahead. But we have to work squarely at the current challenges for music education. We are here to look squarely at them and to squarely also look at the current opportunities for music education around our central goals of equity and access, all children having opportunities for music education. We also need to look squarely at the education relief funding that is coming down through our state education agencies and are going to be available to every school district in America. And we have to understand and to look squarely at our role in advocating for the use of those funds for well-rounded education. We also really want to look at some really important hard-earned yardage that has been gained with the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and also the U.S. work ongoing with the U.S. Department of Education that has published formal recommendations for music and arts as students return to in-person learning. And each of us can walk away today with some concrete things that we want you to do and we want your networks to do. In other words, you are a catalyst to inspire, engage other people to do these actions. And as I was writing and preparing for today, I was thinking that, we all stand on the shoulders of some remarkable people that did this work before us, most notably Carl Brun, who was the first market development director at NAMM. And he called us to action saying, we all care, but do we really care effectively? And I think we've all expanded our knowledge and our understanding in this work of advocating together, that we have the opportunity today to work to care effectively with some of the tools that we've put together. So I'm going to have Lynn, ask Lynn to join us in our opening here to really look at some of the current challenges for music education as we move through and out of this extraordinary time, hoping most of all that all of you are well and that your families are well and your employees and your networks are well and moving through this time. Many of us are seeing on our calendars a schedule for a vaccine shot, maybe a second. Maybe our networks are starting to be contacted for the healthy return. So we want to look squarely at what some of the challenges are. And Lynn, I'm going to ask you to help us guide us through some of this awareness.
Sure. Thanks, Mary. And it's wonderful to be on a NAMM webinar and see, as you said, pointed out, Mary, many friends in the chat and in the list of participants. So thanks for being with us today. As I don't think this will surprise any of you, we've been talking for many months now about what we believe the state of play will be, particularly looking at state and local school district budgets next school year. So this, of course, is dependent on the state in which you find yourself and the school district within which you work, or the districts with which you work. But there will be schools and states facing budget shortfalls going into next school year. And so we are optimistically keeping an eye on the Congress to see if they will put forward some additional backfill dollars to support not only public education, but also state budget shortfalls. And while state budgets might seem far removed from music education, many, as you know, many school districts receive a large chunk of their budget, of their allocation and appropriations directly from the state. And so if state budgets are squeezed, that means that public education budgets will be squeezed as well. And so thinking about that and wanting to remind our state legislators and folks that we work with at the state level that they need to fully fund public education, or perhaps need to fund it fully plus a little bit more in order to meet all the mitigations that we'll need as we get students back into school buildings next school year. So certainly as we look ahead, one of those challenges would be budget shortfalls. The second one you have listed here, this one is one that this one's going to be a tough one, Mary. Right, we are looking at students. Certainly, my sons have been out of their school buildings now for a full year, as you said at the top of this webinar, and students have experienced different levels of learning loss and of disconnect and trauma from not being in school. And we are seeing the conversation, I would say, with federal, with state, and with local policymakers shift to a deep concern about learning loss. And while I would like to be optimistic that learning loss means that we're going to think creatively about how we help students catch up and continue to have access to a well-rounded education, I'm enough of a veteran of the No Child Left Behind era that when I hear learning loss, I think that folks are going to start to step up remediation. And when I hear remediation, I think of pullouts, right? They're going to pull kids out of music and arts. They're going to pull kids out of library. They're going to pull kids out of PE. They're going to pull kids out of recess in order to get them additional assistance in the tested subject areas, because that's what's going to play out in the school accountability system. And so we're going to need to remind our policymakers at the local level about the importance of music and the arts in terms of supporting students as they come back together as community on campus, or if they continue to meet and create community digitally and virtually, that there's a role that the music and arts play, and that we can't pull kids from those opportunities in order to get them additional learning opportunities in reading and math. It's a yes and, we need to be able to do both. And if we're not having those conversations, schedules are being created right now for next fall that are going to start to pull kids out of music opportunities. And so that's one that we really need to keep an eye on, and we need to be engaged in conversation with those local decision makers. And finally, of course, that second bullet is all encompassing in our world right now, right? The safety concerns, the health and safety concerns of coming forward, coming back into connection with people in school buildings. So as I mentioned, my two sons have been learning from home virtually for the last year. They begin to go back into school buildings starting on Wednesday. And so as we think about that in music and performing arts, we need to think about the special mitigations and safety protocols that we'll need to put in place to keep kids safe while they are continuing to make music together. And what are those, how do those look? What are the possibilities? And then how are our policymakers and our decision makers, our administrators thinking about this? Many administrators are deeply concerned about music making in person, and they may not know of ways to mitigate the risk. And so if we could be sharing out the results from the Performing Arts Aerosol Research Study, sharing examples of what that mitigation can look like, be seen as not only an advocate on behalf of music and arts education, but also a colleague and a support to help them figure out how to do this safely. All of that's going to matter if we will have music making in person. And Mary, I'll just share us on our conference this last weekend, a lovely, amazing young choral music educator from the middle of the country talking about how her administration would allow her students to sing with her, but they had to be outside, fully masked, and 12 feet apart from each other. So by the time I was like, that's like a football field. She was like, I couldn't even see that, 12 feet away from each other, all in a line. She said it was insane. So, she's been sharing the research with them, trying to get them to see that they could maybe stand slightly closer together. But all that she's had to do to try to advocate to keep the program going, and all that she's doing to provide that social and emotional support for her students so that they get an opportunity to sing. So everything that we can do as advocates to support teachers like that in the trenches as they do this work is really important right now.
Thanks, Lynn. It's kind of going back to Advocacy 101, the work that all of you have done consistently year to year to year to go back and reemphasize the benefits of music education. But now those benefits, you have to turn up the dial to 11, right? To
Absolutely.
Final Tap moment, especially around what it means to students to do music and what it means to students to come to school and have music available, and how it is the glue for their lives, and it's the soundtrack of their lives and the glue for community. I think it's so important that each of you that have these connections within school districts carry that message back personally, directly, via phone call, via an email, via a community meeting, and when it's appropriate and possible, to say you are there to help, and you are there to help to make sure students have these experiences. My greatest fear in this time, having gone through many, generations of crises, or feels like, various crises in education, from laws and policies to time to funding to budgets, is that this is a drill and kill moment for our kids. This is a way that those that are having remediation problems or have had issues with falling behind or not having adequate supports through this year are going to re-enter where the standards are set and the expectations are set. And again, where the students who are most at risk for school failure and are just put into that redundancy of learning, and that they are actually the student that research shows benefit the most from these expanded, enriching, mind expanding experiences that are available through music. So we really have to double down and care for these students, and be a voice for support for them. So Lynn, let's look to some of the on the opportunity side, which start with the social emotional learning. Forgive our use of acronyms here, but that's what SEL stands for. And I think that there's a pretty strong drum being beat right now. I'm hearing it, seeing it in the media, in the national press. We're hearing it in a variety of voices are speaking up to saying this is something children really need, and they're coming back to school for. What is your thoughts, and what are some resources available for this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary. And yes, we are fortunate enough to come out with a brochure, and I'll make sure you get that link if you need it, looking at how music education connects with social and emotional learning. And Mary, you already spoke to it so beautifully, that idea of it's what students love to do. It's how they connect and engage. And something that I got to experience when I was on a call actually with dance educators, but it's appropriate with music too, of course. We are one of those, we're one of the very few groups of teachers in any given school where we get to see students for multiple years. It's one of the real gifts of being a performing arts educator, about being a music teacher. And so think for a moment about what that means right now. That means that the music teachers across this nation are the teachers that students will have known pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic. We are one of the few adults with whom they have connected and created community with before they got, went into lockdown and after. We are part of that through line for them of community and of connection and of meaning making within their school communities. And I think that's something, again, that we can lean in on to perhaps remind policymakers how important it is to allow students to be part of this music community, of their music classes, and to continue to engage with them, because we are part of that through line for them from pre-pandemic through post-pandemic. We are part of that through line, that connection, leadership for them, helping them connect and stay connected with each other and connected to their school and community. And that's something that we can provide for them. Even if they do need remediation, they still need to be with us. They still need to be in music classes. They need to be doing what they love, making music, expressing themselves, finding a way to process and think about what's going on. And yes, some of that will happen in a reading and math class, but a lot of that can happen in a music and arts class. And that's part of that social emotional learning piece that I won't say we do natively, because we have to connect it to what we do as music educators, but it's something that we do as part of our work each and every day.
And thank you, Lynn. And I would also say that you, as a NAMM member that's connected to your community, to your customers who are music teachers, this is a time where they need your support and we know that many of you are in the role of supporting music educators in a dramatic way. But knowing that you are there, that you are a consistent force for good and energy for connection to the wider community, it's just, again, a time to double down and make sure that that network is strong and they feel this empathy coming from you. This is a time where we've learned that we either kind of have empathy or we don't, and you can't have enough of it. So I think this is a time to really, build those bridges and rebuild those bridges of support.
Right. And Mary, I was just going to say, and NAMM members, you all are so well positioned to help take this story and share it with policymakers, with community members, and to get the story out there to help not only make the music teacher feel connected to community, but to help share what's going on in that music classroom, because you know what's going on. You're helping make that happen. So you guys are so well positioned to do that work, and thank you for what you do each and every day.
And when you know that there's a struggling music teacher or a program that may be on the brink or is under pressure, a simple conversation like, can we go together to talk to your principal about this?
Absolutely.
Can we go together to talk to your PTA president or a parent organization about this? Can we go together? And your knowledge and expertise and understanding can really make a big difference. So now I want to talk about something I'm kind of inspired by, and that is and I'm going to share some data with you. Oh, by the way, the pager team, NAMM team on the background here, if we can get that brochure from Lynn, from NAFME about the social emotional learning benefits, let's make sure we put that in the chat. And all this is being recorded, by the way, and we'll make sure this is all available on our website. Now, we're not living in a vacuum here. I love when there's a problem, and one of my favorite things is to say, no, that's not such a problem, because we just need more information about that problem, or we need to solve that problem. And our education institutions are not sitting without a very substantial relief funding stream right now. And it's extremely important that you are aware of it, and you are aware of it when you have conversations with local education leaders. So far, these are monies that are probably sitting in state education department bank accounts today, and rules and laws are being written and procedures are being written for these funds to transfer to local school districts. And to date, the funds are from CARES 1, we call it, you can see it on the screen, 11.9 billion. It's either incoming or it's there.
It's there. Those monies have been there since April. Yep.
Right. And then the ESSR 2, which passed in December, it's elementary, secondary, what is it? I forgot.
It's like education relief.
Education relief. That's right. Elementary, secondary school education relief, ESSER 2, close to 49 billion. And what just passed in the House, which is now being debated in the Senate, is the third relief bill, which hopefully, it's hoped for will be passed by March 14. is another 130 billion for K-12. Now I just want to, I'm going to share my screen now. Let's hope this all goes well. Do you want to continue? It says yes, and I'm going to, oh boy, now it's, I don't know if I'm sharing because I'm not seeing.
It's not up, Mary.
Okay.
It had been up there.
There you go. You're good.
I'm going to share it again. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to be real time. Are we seeing it? Are we seeing something now?
Yes.
All right. This, my friends, is what we're going to put in the chat for you. This is the table from that first batch of relief funds
From last April. Yep.
by state. So we'll have this document available to you, and you can see the maximum that was allocated. And LEA is the lead education agency, another term for school district.
Yep.
The amount that can be held back by the state education association, the SEA, the maximum they can spend on their central administration. So you can see what is being passed to
School districts.
to your school districts. And in some places like Texas, it's a pretty substantial number. It has 3 columns, which means it's over $1 billion. It's going to be distributed to school districts by formula. Now, Lynn, I want your verification on this. The formula, can you explain this?
Yes, so it's going to go out by formula based on the funding formulas associated with Title I of the Every Student Succeeds Act. And you all are actually well primed to this, Mary, thanks to the great work of NAMM and our partnership over the years looking at Title IV Part A. So you all are trained, right, that at Title IV Part A, it's going to be an application that comes from the school district, making the request to the state for access to those formula funds. And that's exactly how this puppy is going to work as well. So it's about working with that federal programs director or manager in a school district. And they're the ones who will be putting forward the application to the state to access these dollars.
And I want to show you the table. This was the second one, the Relief Fund 2, Education Relief Fund, which was larger. It follows the same formula. What was appropriated, what's available to school districts, what's remaining in the State Department of Education, what's available to them for their State Department administration. This is all new money. Bottom line.
All new money that they started to get last month.
Right, all new money. And this is also telling us that where there is the greatest need in terms of a community social economic level or status or their Title I status is where more funds will be flowing. It sure seems like a very interesting time to be innovative and supportive with maybe a new or underserved market in some way, right? There's also, when you look at the available funds in the state education, if you have not worked with the State Department of Education or their CDA representative, and Lynn, tell us what CDA is, remind us again.
Sure, so State Education Agency Directors of Arts Education. So they're the arts ed folks who work within state departments of ed.
And they have a website and you can contact them. It would be another time to work with the State Education Agency to assess how can we create more music and arts learning for our children in our state, to address their social emotional needs, to bring them back to school, a place they want to be because it's full of music and arts learning opportunities. So again, I go back to these opportunities, and this is a big one. And we haven't even seen the chart for what they're working on right now, which would have a first column to be for K-12, 130 billion, what percentage would be allocated for school districts, what percentage would stay with the State Department of Education, and how much they can hold back for their own administrative. So the conversation that is so important that you have locally, first of all, that you are making it clear that you're aware of this money. The worst thing that happens in education or any kind of policy is that actions and activities happen in the dark. And you are going forward and saying, or you can print out this chart and say, I know these funds are flowing. I know these funds are available. I'm here to help. I'm here to be involved with the decision making and the review process and the activities that we can make sure our children are having are enriching, full, well-rounded experience. That they want to come to school, they want to stay in school, their families want to be engaged in their children's learning, that we all can come back together. Now, here's an idea that we're working on. We know that school districts, and Eric, you can unshare this, and we'll make sure these documents are available to you. Or I should unshare it because I'm the one who's sharing. Sorry, I'll get it eventually. We know that school districts, when they closed, that many of you lost the opportunity to recruit new students into band and orchestra programs. We also know, so students essentially, we lost a year in some places. A large percentage of students did not start, though a lot of you did very, very innovative work, and students were starting online and you were recruiting them online. And now we're going to come back to school with fall, with the spring and the summer and the fall approaching. Some students are starting to come back, and as we go through time, more and more will. I see that there's essentially two classes, two grades of students that need some kind of pickup or some type of remediation. I'm calling it like almost a music remediation or a regathering of music students. I think the summer is an excellent opportunity to really consider the use of these relief funds to do some type of music and arts sort of camps or gatherings or recruitment events, using the socially distanced recommendations coming from the CDC, the way that these students can be re-engaged kind of ahead of the former curriculum. We know many of you are involved in band camps in the summer for fee-based. I would say that these relief funds should sort of eliminate the need for these fee-based programs. It's a way for you to take those models and pivot them, working with band directors and orchestra teachers and across your regions, to pivot them and to use these relief funds to expand to ukulele, to expand to guitar, to expand to modern band, to expand to drumline, to expand to mariachi. You know, you could start weeks ahead of school starting and do programmatic work every week.
Well, and Mary, those kids, right, there's good possibility in many school districts that students will be back for summer learning all summer. So they're going to have buildings open, they're going to having kids there. So the question doesn't become, you know, how do we get kids together if we want to do these summer programs? It's the kids are already together. Let's add music and arts programs to what you're doing in the summer, and we can help you do that.
Yeah, but you only can do it by having conversations locally.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, there is not a magic wand that that Lynn and I, even in our blue suits and sweaters, that we can go and make that happen in every 14,000 school district in America. It's going to be built because it is all about, you know, the way we are organized. It's going to be built one community at a time. And we know that within regions, when something starts happening in a high-performing school districts, they're begged and borrowed and organized across sectors. And you know, that's a fire you could start. You could start that fire for summer arts learning, summer music learning, summer intensive music experiences. We want teachers to be, you know, adequately paid and reimbursed. It's about their professionalism. It's about them coming together with their expertise and knowledge. It's also community artists and musicians can be engaged in this. It's a way to bring all the out of work musicians together to support the community and bring them back together. So I'm just trying to kind of plant some ideas. And if you have ideas about this, I know we'd like to kind of gather around the campfire. If there's a reason or a need to create a bit of a template for this, then it could catch some fire. But asking for these, knowing that these funds are there is kind of your job one. Having conversations about the use of these funds for bringing children together, to strengthening the students that lost that year of recruitment, It's going to take staff and innovative scheduling to kind of do 2 years at once. But the goal is not to lose a year of those students, because once they're out, they're going to be out through middle school and high school and all the other experiences that they want to have. But this is a kind of a short time frame to have this innovation, starting now in the formal back to school period in September, when it's anticipated that there will be this herd immunity and vaccinations, and teachers will be comfortable coming back to school. I do want to stop and say one thing: the health and well-being of teachers is also extremely important, right? I mean, we say student well-being, but this is teacher well-being. And this is also, we know that our teachers have been under enormous stress and strain and have done remarkable work. And these relief funds should also be spent on their professional development, right? So they can go and have some of the many experiences that you offer and our nonprofit partners offer, that they can get in enrichment, they can come back to the classroom and feel ready to go. And I think we all probably need that feeling too, right, Lynn?
Yeah, and I just want to say one phrase that I recall back from the Great Recession, the last time we had stimulus dollars for education flowing. And I was sitting at a State Department of Education overseeing how those dollars went out to school districts. And we were given a charge by the Federal Department of Education that they wanted these funds spent wisely and spent quickly. I don't know about any of you, but personally, I'm really good at doing one or other of those, not doing both of them simultaneously, at least with my own personal funds. I can either spend them quickly or I can spend them well. So the school districts that you're working with are going to be asked to do both of those things simultaneously, to spend the dollars, to start obligating them to come up with plans, and that they're supposed to be good, wise plans. So if you are able to engage with them in conversation and bring them a good plan to work with, they will have dollars that they'll need to spend on good plans. So they're going to be looking for solutions, because these dollars are coming to them and many of them are going to be trying to figure out how to spend them. Right? They know they're going to need to spend it on personal protective equipment, but a lot of them have already stepped up some of that stuff, right? So they're going to be looking at how they can spend these dollars, because they're going to be under pressure to spend them quickly. And so you can come in and come up with a great plan that's going to help keep students engaged, that's going to help support music and arts education and learning, that's going to keep kids coming to school so that they're learning, or even coming for summer school so that they are getting the additional support that they need in the tested subject areas, as well as connecting and building community and building their skills again in music and the arts. So I think, again, having those local conversations right now, I think it may feel strange to knock on that door, but I think you'll be a welcomed partner in this, because you're going to bring some innovative solutions to the questions that school districts are asking right now.
Right. All right. So I do want to jump now to our call to action effort. I'm going to jump over the CDC for a minute, Eric. Then I want to go back to share my screen, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, so we're seeing here now what we're going to be guiding, what we are launching today at NAMM.org. I hope you're seeing it. I love the confirmation that you're seeing it. This is what we're doing now with our direct ask. When our advocacy effort, we always outline a very clear ask. And by reviewing this ask with you, I'm also going to share some of the other opportunities you have for direct advocacy. I'm sharing with you, and just get a confirmation that you're seeing it, my letter to Senator Gillibrand, thank you, who's my senator here in New York. This is what's available to you right now at NAMM.org, and we'll give you a quick view in a minute of where you're going to find it. And this is a direct call to action to every member of Congress that we're doing here as part of our Music in Our Schools Month. So we go through, and I'm just showing, I started this, it's a very, you go to this tool, you fill in your name and your address, and it gives you exactly who your members of Congress are, and you can write to them. We've given you a template which you can actually customize, and you can see, you can go through, we give a little bit of background of NAMM and that we are grateful for Congress's action with the Education Relief Fund, but now we are asking for three very specific things. Okay, the first thing that we're asking a member of Congress for is that be sure that this education relief funding has flexibility. that has flexibility to support all the things that are important to a child's education in turning the well-rounded subjects to include music as the arts as delineated in the federal education law. We had a very interesting chat share about how they've already asked someone in the district for their relief funding, and they were kind of said, we don't need your help. Well, that's really not, that's something that you're going to have to keep working on, because even in this process, they are encouraging community members to be involved in the deliberation of the use of relief funds. That's really part of ESSA, that community members are to be involved. So we encourage you. And I think we had one example that came up from one of our Yamaha colleagues, how they were able to get some relief funds used. So maybe you could share that in chat. But that's one thing we're asking our members of Congress for directly, especially in the next 2 weeks, as the Senate is writing and they reconcile the bill, the final relief bill, with the House again, to make sure that they're not, that they're keeping the use of these funds flexible to state and local communities, how these funds can be used. We're also asking our members of Congress, and I'm asking you, to sign and share the Arts Our Education Pledge and to organize a community resolution. Now I have this is the website. Again, I hope you're seeing it. The Arts Our Education. This will be, you're sharing that when you share that with in the member of Congress, and we're actually going to be asking a member of Congress to put forth a congressional resolution for Arts Our Education. But we've done this with the national consortium. I see some of our folks are here. And you can go to the pledge and to the resolution. You can sign them. You can put them up on your sign the pledge. I'll show you what the pledge looks like here. You can go. You can download it. You can customize it. You can sign it. Your name will be listed that you're signing it on the Arts Our Education website. You can encourage your people throughout your entire community, your band boosters, your whole company can sign the pledge, and you can carry the pledge up to your school board of education, your school administration, to create a resolution and sign a resolution. So very important. And also you can write your state legislators via this portal. And when we're writing to our state legislators on this portal and also at the NAMM website, and I'll show you that in a moment, you are saying to them, as these federal relief funds come by, be sure that these funds can work to support music and arts education for our children. So we're kind of multi-pronged here. So that is the other ask that we are putting forward to members of Congress, that just like I want all of you to be involved in this campaign, you will be asking members of Congress to be involved with this campaign. And then we're also asking our members of Congress to share information with their constituents, and members of Congress love to do this, by the way, with the CDC reviewed guidelines supporting by scientific research that provides mitigation information for music and arts education. And I'm going to show you the CD guidelines. This is from the cdc.gov website right now, and their guidelines for music, choir, and performing arts teachers. And these guidelines were based on, after just remarkable work by our partners with the National Federation of High Schools, which Lynn Tuttle introduced us to, and we all came together to fund the aerosol study. These CDC guidelines are kind of a part of the door to the pass-through door that we have to say to school administrators, well, we have a very comprehensive aerosol study and we have very serious mitigation efforts that the CDC has reviewed with us, and revolves masks for instruments, ventilation, socially distance, recommendation for choirs, that we can't just pour spit valves on the floor on waste baskets anymore. We need a few things to mitigate for that. Even theater and dance are included. The other art forms are included. So very important that we're asking members of Congress to share this, and I'm asking all of you to share this information as well. This is how we can take action on this. And then Eric, I'm going to stop sharing, and maybe you can return us to that slide that has the CDC recommendations on it. I would really appreciate that. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but that's what called live TV is all about. So again, this was from our mitigation study that we all helped fund. Masks worn by students. Mask cover bells should be instruments and materials. Materials should not be shared. Instruments should not be shared. Social distancing, 6 by feet is the standard. A little extra for trombone. Doesn't surprise
Those trombone
anybody.
players. Yep.
Trombone, it doesn't surprise any of us about that. Time that this is a challenge. We know that there should be some time between gathering of students, 30 minutes to provide for airflow and HVAC air exchange. We know that there's probably a lot of these relief funds are going to be spent on building
systems.
On building infrastructure to support airflow. We also know that outdoor activities are going to be important. Thus, the idea of these summer music camps and these summer music intensive, where the option for playing under pavilions or in tents could be an option. And also the basic hygiene, the strong emphasis on hand washing, the whole spit valve storage, cleaning of storage. I just want to show you a brief graphic on the airflow. This is all available to you, by the way. This is where you can see, and I'm sorry if this type is a little small, but you see the aerosol being emitted by trombone, trumpet, French horn, and tuba. But then the tiny little yellow bars is what happens when you mask that instrument's bell cover. So it's quite surprising. And all of this, we have charts and charts and charts and charts of this available to you in the aerosol study that you can actually, if someone says, well, I'm not quite sure I believe you. Well, two scientific researchers at 2 universities with massive teams that are also studying airflow conditions and all sorts of business and manufacturing environments did this study and have recommended these mitigation efforts. So they are available to you. All right, let's go back and do a quick review of action. First of all, NAMM's advocacy alert, Eric, the next page is right here at namm.org. Issues and advocacy under music education. There's the state lawmakers alert, and there's the federal lawmakers alert. And this federal lawmakers alert is what I showed you that I did to Senator Gillibrand with the 3 primary asks, which is make sure that the relief funds have flexibility to include support for well-rounded education, that you sign and share the Arts Our Education pledge, and you advance a resolution, and that you share the CDC recommendations for music learning with your constituents and with all of your constituents. Those are the 3 primary actions alert that we are engaged with now. So next slide again, just to we're just a quick summary, I think, of what I just talked about the Arts and Education campaign. And with that, I will go to the next slide. And Lynn, give us an update of the other activities that are happening with NAFI and what a beautiful logo you've done for Music in Our Schools Month. Music, the Sound of My Heart. 2nd day of March with Music in Our Schools Month. What do you have planned and what's ongoing that we can also participate in?
Well, thanks, Mary. And yeah, welcome to Music in Our Schools Month. Welcome to March. We're thrilled to be working with, I see Mike on from Conn-Selmer, our colleagues at Conn-Selmer who are helping us host our virtual all national honor ensembles. The students met back in January with the conductors and then put their performance together, sent it in, and the virtual ensembles will be debuted this week. on Thursday. So we welcome you to join us for that, that concert, that virtual performance. In addition, working with our colleagues here at NAMM and other colleagues from the National Coalition for Core Art Standards, we'll be doing a virtual congressional briefing on March 24th. Senator John Tester from Montana will be hosting the briefing focused on social and emotional benefits of music and arts education. And again, you can contact us for more information, and we're hoping that we can live stream that event so that you can participate wherever you are. And again, that'll be a deeper dive into the connection between music and arts education and social emotional learning and supports, which I think is a really not only a fascinating conversation, but really vital information to bring back for your local advocacy efforts. And then we'll be ending the month with a Young Composers Concert. So we do a student composition competition every year. We're very fortunate to work with the Acropolis Reed Quintet as the performers for this year's winning pieces. And they've recorded those and will be joining us for this virtual conference along with the student composers so that we can hear from the composers themselves as their pieces are debuted in this virtual event on March 29th. As well, I'm very thrilled to say that we have 29 of our state music education associations to date participating with us in a virtual Hill Month for the month of March. And so our state leaders will be putting together delegations to meet with members of Congress and or staffers from Congress virtually. And again, if that's something that you would like to connect with based on the state where you're located, please get in touch with me or email us at advocacy@nafmi.org and we'll connect you with the state leaders. We would love to have NAMM partners participate with us if that's of interest to you.
And I can't emphasize that strongly enough that if, Lynn, I think it would be great if we could publish to this group. The states are in play.
Absolutely.
And so let's do that as a follow-up and we'll send that out to all of you. We did have a meeting with the, when you kicked off the your advocacy event with your groups, with your group of state leaders. And we urge them to reach out to NAMM members in their states. So we're really trying to cross-pollinate both groups. And if they're setting meetings, then we would encourage you to participate. Now, for our NAMM members, we are not setting direct meetings. We're asking you to do these action alerts with the GovPredict. And we also are going to be asking about, I think it's about 50 of you to do targeted outreach to the House and Senate Education Committees, and we'll be reaching out to NAMM members directly on that. We want your message to them to come from your personal or business emails, not via the GovPredict tool. So we will be reaching out to you directly on that, so stand by for that. A lot of information flowing here and a lot of good material flowing on the chat. I can see that we've had some success being reported that some folks do know some people that are pulling relief funds. Maybe Marcia, would you come on and tell us a little bit about what you heard from Cobb County and how they did that? It would be great to hear from you. Unmute, Marcia.
Okay, so the 150K that was used was from Title 4A, which is what we were kind of talking at that point from last fall. And I just sent out to the music supervisor the process for that. And I asked, what did you do? And what about the other funds? And so he is at a point where he is now working hand in glove with the person in his district who is in charge of federal funds, because they were not aware of how much additional money was out there. And this is kind of like the surprising thing. Like nobody knows it's there. Even people who should know don't necessarily know. So he is I just sent that questionnaire out to him 2 days ago. This is so hot off the press, and copied Mary last night about his looking forward to meeting with that same person who helped him with the Title IV funds to move forward. And I think the big thing here is that awareness is key. People just don't know what's there. And I think, Mary, you saying, print out those documents, take them, let the people know that you know it's there, is everything that we need to do. And we've got to keep talking about this over and over. For all you folks who are at dealers, please share with your educators that there is money there to be accessed. We have to remember we're all taxpayers, and so we have a voice in this. That's the key thing. We're paying money in, so we should get money out. So let's make that happen and not wait for someone else. You people have been doing this for a long time, so you know how to do it. Make a phone call, call the superintendent of the school district, call your school board member and find out who is that person who represents where you live or where your business is, and ask them, are they aware of these funds, or who could they talk to? I just think we can't sit back. It's just too great of an opportunity. And so that we're moving forward, and I should be hearing back from that Cobb County supervisor soon, and I'll blast it all out and be sure that everybody gets the info.
That's a really a great message of hope, and really what we have to do. I mean, we really have to have these conversations with, you have a neighbor that's a school board, you have a request for a formal meeting, you go with a group, right? This really is a follow the money moment. In public affairs and government relations work, you either follow the policy or you follow the money. And we have both happening right now. We have the needs of children. We have a policy, our education law. We have a Title IV that's been out there operating, helpful for well-rounded. And now we have, unprecedented, I don't know if we'll ever see it again in our time. Let's hope we don't have another pandemic, that we have to do this economically. This is, there's all sorts of causes and effects for this action economically as well. But we really need to make it known that we understand, that we want to be helpful, that we're not going to sit by and wait for these funds to be used and used up in other ways. We also know that when public entities like school districts are faced with, like Lynn said, send it now, quickly, and make it work as well as you can. We've got to be ready. And I think direct services as well as materials are important, like the idea of these summer camps, the summer early integration and summer early starts for music, and catching up for this class of this grade of student that missed their opportunity is all something that could be very, very effective. Great comments again coming up from the, yes, we join you with someone who said, I'm very concerned about possible cuts to our program. I think that, but when you look again at the amount of resources that are coming through, you said, well, how could that be when they're the cut to the program? Why? Because of money? I don't know. There's always be a rationale, or someone will have a rationale that they can't afford it. But I would love to have Lynn maybe talk about that. How are we going to stand up against the potential for a program cut?
And again, yeah, as you're saying, Mary, there's, especially if this next round of stimulus gets through, there's going to be plenty of money flowing. So it's going to be less about money, frankly. I'm just going to be very bold here. It's going to be more about scheduling. It's going to be more about that learning loss and that sense of remediation. And are we going to need to pull students away from music programs because we think they need to have more math, more reading, more of the tested subject areas? And so it's really that conversation about why it's important for students to have both. Students may need remediation in places where they are suffering from learning loss, but they also are going to need their music programs and their arts programs. And they're going to need to be ways to build that schedule creatively. So if there are ways to approach it and say, and not dismiss the concerns around learning loss, because those are very real and sort of central to how I think administrators and certainly local policymakers are thinking right now. But how can we be a support to support students who are going to need to be making up for that learning loss? And while we're not going to do it directly in our music classrooms, we're going to do it because they're going to have an option to come to music. They're going to be in music, which means they're going to come to school. They're going to want to attend. They're going to feel connected to their school and to their school community. They're going to feel and may be able to have a sense of accomplishment that maybe they're not in the subjects where they've been suffering a learning loss. So so if you can come into the conversations, be like, we are part of the solution, and let's sit down together to see what we can do to create a flexible and creative schedule so that students can continue to be part of a music program, part of an arts program, as well as get the remediation that they might need. I think that's where we're going to find some success.
Thank you, Lynn. So Eric, if you could put back that slide that shows us where we can get our the links to the Gov Predict. I'd like to end with that. You know, I don't know about you, but when I get worried about something, when I get hyper concerned about something, there's two things I do. Generally, I go for a walk, and sometimes it's a really long walk. And usually on that walk, I'm figuring out what I have to do. And this is a time to actually, we have to do things. We have to do things now. And I hope before this day is over, you will at least go to NAMM.org, Issues Advocacy and Music Education, and take advantage of those two Gov Predict that you write to your member of Congress. The next thing would be for you to go to the Arts Our Education website, and we'll make sure you've got all of that. And you take the pledge and you carry a pledge forward. And you start a resolution somewhere. The San Diego School District's Board of Ed, the 10th largest school district in America, by the way, passed a resolution last night. Passed the Arts Our Education resolution last night. Why? Because they had supporters and pressure that wanted them to do it, and they did it. And they had, you know, lots of years of energy leading up to that, and they did that, make that happen. And the last thing is to carry these CDC guidelines in your pocket, and we'll make sure you've got the links. You could print out that page and you can say, well, we're worried that our kids aren't going to be, that they won't be able to come together and make music together again. We have probably the best science we could ever do. We're kind of shocked a few people with how good this science is, that we actually went to the ends to create this body of work that actually validates that children, students can come together, learn music together, play music together, and they can have a situation that makes sure that they are safe and well throughout all this. So Lynn, thank you. Thank you for being, you know, someone that I can't imagine doing a day of this work without, for your great knowledge and understanding. Any final words from you, Lynn?
No, just thank you, Mary, for all of this great work. Thank you, NAMM and NAMM Foundation, for all this amazing work. And thank you, NAMM members, because you truly get this work done at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. Really appreciate your partnership and all of your amazing advocacy.
Thank you. And I don't want to rush us if there's people that have questions. I have been trying to keep my eye on the question box. So why don't we formally sign off if you need to go, but we'll stick around. And if you do have a question, please pop it in the chat box. So please stay in touch with us. Mary L at NAMM.org. You know how to reach us at NAMM. Please report back to us on what you're doing so we can track and share this with others. And please watch for future updates. We'll stick around. Okay, Lynn, if there's questions?
Certainly.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. Okay, Dave, you have a question? You want to chime in? You have a question about?
Hello. Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the info. Great to see you guys. So Harif money. I know most, I mean, I've been reading ed.gov a lot recently. Not
I'm going to say, bless you, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Good things to put me to sleep at night. But the hair money is, you know, I know a lot of it went to the individual students to, you know, for financial aid and for students that lost income for working on campus and so on and so forth.
And just to make sure, we're talking about higher ed, right?
Higher education
money,
relief.
yeah.
Let's just so
HEER.
everyone is as acronym challenged as I am. It's higher, higher ed.
I know, too many acronyms. Yes. I'm just wondering, you know, I've heard some universities have accessed this money for equipment to help kids that can't be on campus. You know, a friend of mine, and I sent you this message last week, access some money in the Cal State system. But I'm just wondering how this money is coming down and how, you know, are private schools accessing this money? I mean, there's just a lot of questions. We talk a lot about ESSER money, but I think there's some opportunities for people to use this hair money too.
What do you think,
I don't-
Lynn? I'm not tracking that as closely.
No, neither am I, Dave. I'm sorry to say so.
Yeah.
I might need to do
Okay.
a little research and get back to you. It should, so there are multiple threads within the higher ed funding, relief funding, right? So there's going to be, as you said, the part that will follow college work study and that will follow student loans, right? So,
Right.
and so if students are able to receive federal financial assistance on your campus, then those funds would come down your campus regardless of whether public or private, right? In terms of
Right.
higher ed. Then there's an additional stream of funding, I believe that is for the actual higher education institutions themselves. What I'm not certain of, Dave, if that's only for public institutions or if that also is available for private institutions based on your connection to the feds, right? So if you take federal
Right.
financial aid, do you have access or don't you? That part I don't know. So let me go do a little research and I'll get
Okay.
back to Mary and to you on that.
That'd be great. I mean, I sent them an email, that hair@ed.gov, and I found the ESSER one. They have been responding really well to it. So, but I had a question from an educator who taught at Vanderbilt, and I went to the COVID dashboard and looked, and Vanderbilt got $5 million. It's unclear of, is that $5 million go directly to the students, or
Right.
was there
Is
some
it for the
money
students at Vanderbilt or is it some for the actual institution? I'll go
Right,
do
because
some
I know, yeah,
research
most
for
of that
you.
money is going directly to the students, and the universities are deciding how it's being distributed, whether it's for everyone or for students in need. I know it's up to the individual institutions, but it'd be great to find out, can we access some of that money, and can, some of our dealers get money to, or help these institutions purchase equipment. So
Right, the protective equipment and other things that they might need
exactly.
to function right
Yeah.
now. Yep,
Yeah.
I'll go find
Great.
out.
Thank you.
Tristan in Wisconsin, I saw your question. I'd love to have you ask it. Great to see you, Tristan.
So I guess I'm curious, and thank you, Marcia. I think she might not be on anymore, but sharing that the school districts don't actually know that this money is accessible. Why is that? Why? I mean, is it just that they don't monitor these? Is it just very uncommon that a bill like this would even happen? So I guess the real question is, why do they not know? Because I feel like knowing that answer might help encourage some of our teachers to actually pursue that. And of course, even when we're talking to our superintendents, kind of making sure to say, we recognize that that's an issue.
Yeah, the why is the great mystery of the follow the government money. Lynn, why don't you start? I mean, I have my thoughts, but I'd love to hear you. I mean, is it just because it is so complicated in some ways? It's complicated. People that are engaged with instruction really don't have their heads in that part of the game, right? Because we know what they are doing every day and the passion that they carry. But Lynn, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I think, again, Marcia was originally referring to Title IV Part A funds. And so again, that's a relatively, I know it sounds silly, but it's a relatively new part of federal education funds that are available. And it could just be something that the federal programs person just hadn't really connected with yet or looked into fully yet, right? Because it's not, normally that's a small part of their job, his or her job, compared to Title I or special ed or whatever else might be that district has to deal with. With that said, I think on the stimulus dollars, my guess is that most school districts are well aware of their CARES Act funding because that's around from last April. They may be less aware of the dollars that are available to them from the next round of stimulus that came out that could benefit public education, right? That got passed in December and the funds started flowing down in January. They may not even have gotten that memo yet from their State Department of Education of how the funds are going to be handled. They probably have it by now, but again, like it's got to all trickle down. The state has to figure out how it's going to handle the dollars, how it's going to ask. And at this point, in fact, what the state may have done is said, we're just going to keep open that application that we set up for CARES Act last April. And now more funds are available through that act. So go in and amend what you put in already. And here's how much money you have. And the big shock, right, will be this next round, because this next round is going to be like a lot bigger.
3 times.
And so they're not going to be ready for that. And they're going to be, I think, Mary, as you've talked about so beautifully, they're going to be thinking, as they start to think about that, if they are, and certainly the larger school districts are, right? They're going to be thinking about what are they going to do with those dollars in summer? What are they going to do with those dollars in the fall? And many of them are going to be very strategic and think about how are these dollars going to get them past whatever the state budget holes might be for the next couple of years. Because these dollars are, they've got to access these dollars for about 18 months. So many of them are going to be thinking strategically about this, but it's still going to be a lot of money. A lot of money, which is where you can say we can help you think strategically too, but in this niche and this, and again, for a school administrator, it's going to feel very niche to think just music and arts. But again, if you can make those connections of how it's going to help kids connect, attend school, do all those things that you know that music helps kids do, I think it's very convincing.
Yeah, great. You know, I'm kind of two minds of this. All in and totally, you know, of your mind too, Lynn, everything that you've just said. But I kind of have two minds of this, you know. In other words, when the information is known, it can be talked about, it can be shared, it can be worked on, right? So you can be the catalyst to share the information, work on it, open up the channels, open up the deliberations. You know, it is, how many phone calls are you up for, right? I mean, it's part of the work, right? The other mind I have is that just knowing that those funds are there and they might roll, right, and they will roll, they are rolling, right, those funds are there, is that you're gonna go, wow, we got to get all this done for kids. We've got to finally do this ukulele program for kids, and we have got to do this summer band camp for kids with this modern band. You know, it's the oldies but goodies and the new, and we've got to set up a spoken word hip hop experience for our kids, and we got to do it in kind of 2-week increments. It'd be the time, you know, take that core of really creative teachers, and so let's go. Let's just make it undeniable, and we've got to do it now. And I think the places that are going to do that, the money's going to be pretty much available. I think it's going to be, I just believe that. Now we have to show, we have to prove it, right? But I think that there's been so much innovation in this time period with music teaching. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been phenomenal what we've, and what the media is saying about it, right? The media is there's a lot of supportive news and energy about the value of this for kids coming from the, you know, the education psychology sector and the, you know, and all of these, what students need to reconnect. It's kind of got to just unlock this now with what we know, and we're going to keep informed and keep pushing.
And Mary, I was going to say, Marion, we get to do that now, and we also probably get to revisit next school year when the districts start to panic because they haven't spent all the dollars, because that will happen too. So there'll be another opportunity. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Oh, Nancy Telford, unmute yourself, Nancy, please, so we can hear you.
I have just 3 brief things. Number one, I'm a volunteer at the Museum of Music in Carlsbad, and we've been doing renovation training since June. So we have been doing everything on Zoom, and it's worked out great. But in reference to writing to our senators and our House representatives, I'm very involved in the League of Women Voters. And I can tell you from experience that getting letters written and making phone calls to senators and representatives really is the way to go. And having the templates and the portals is great. And one of the things that League comes up against are, you know, people will say, well, you know, this person from New York isn't going to listen to us because we're in California. But the good thing is NAMM has people all over the place. So we've got the opportunity to really pester and get things done. And then my third point is, I think one of the areas that needs a lot right now is children that have disabilities, i.e. autism, and some of those kind of things. So that's going to be another opportunity. And I'm wondering if there's some ways that we might be able to include that in some of their stuff. I'm a letter writer, so I'm always trying to think of angles of another way, that I can get under their skin. So,
Great
thank you.
points. Great points, and thank you so much for your work in the League of Women's Voters that, have been carrying the flag for voter access and equity for decades. So we're super grateful for all of you. And yes, projects that address the special needs of students or students with special needs, however you describe it, is another great approach. I'm seeing. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you. And for the great work,
well-run meeting, very, very well-run meeting.
and the great work that you do at the Museum of Making Music. And when we're all able to go to California again, we all have to go to our wonderful museum at headquarters to see its renovation. That's how they've used their COVID year to completely restructure their environment. I'm seeing Glenn McCarthy here, and it's so great to see so many friends, and we'll wrap up shortly. But Glenn, I'm just thinking of Guitars in the Classroom and the Gitsy work and the teaching guitar workshop work that you were involved in. I just see that it's a time to re-engage teachers. And these relief funds should go to support these teachers attending your workshops as well. So I'm hopeful for that. All right, I think we need to wrap it up. And Tristan and Dave, I think you're making a connection here to help one another with shaking the tree of relief funds. Thank you. Let's get to work. We'll be in touch this month. To our NAMM members too, we will be in touch about more advocacy coming up in the next 3 months. 3 things to do, right? Write your member of Congress, get yourself involved with the arts, our education, and spread the word about those CDC guidelines. All right. Lynn Tuttle, you're my hero. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Welcome.
And to our great NAMM team, the great background they do, the great
Woo.
production team, thank you so much for that. Why don't we'll stop recording when people go, and maybe our NAMM, Glenn McCarthy, get out there and start teaching guitar again, okay? We're counting on you.
We've got virtual workshops set up. We've got in-person ones. We're going to be starting soon.
I love that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks all.